Hello there. What I'd like to talk about is what is democracy? Democracy is obviously not what most people think of. This is the dumbass explanation for dumbasses, explained by a dumbass as to what democracy is. Democracy is not a lie. You simply don't understand what it is. Democracy, communism, fascism, um, all the other ones, they're all the same fucking thing, except they're different. And what do I mean by that? I mean, democracy, what it really is a rich country's authoritarianism. Uh, when a country has secured stability within its own government, um, and has the financial capabilities, it becomes a democracy. Unless, of course, those resources are being extracted by another country, but that's not really getting into the political circle. That's getting into the military industrial complex, which is not exactly what I wanted to talk about. Because, there's a difference between the first world and the third world and, that sort of stuff. Um, yeah, so democracy supposedly, the idea is that it has more layers. So the person who is elected prime minister, for example, Justin Trudeau, doesn't have ultimate power. He never did. There's supposed to be more levels to obtain power, and therefore he's able to exercise his power. However, to suggest that people actually vote and their vote counts in any kind of election is complete stupidity. Your average Joe's vote counts for nothing. You have to be further up the food chain, and then they make the decisions for you. And democracy is authoritarianism. It's just a little bit wealthier. And when I mean a little bit wealthier, I mean it's only a little bit wealthier than other countries. Other countries are not exactly competitors. They're living in dirt mud huts. It's not that hard to look rich in front of someone who lives in a dirt mud hut. And this is the fallacy that Western powers have had for many years. They thought that they were so rich and so powerful because certain individuals, could have golden toilets, $15 billion yachts, yada, yada, yada. And that other countries were barely able to scrape a bowl of rice together. Yes, that's all good and well, but if you don't distribute that wealth within your country, not even just to the local populace, but I mean through your own business ventures within the country, your country is only so rich. It's the individual who has all that power and money. It happens to reside within a certain country that is the wealthy one, not the country. So that's one of the problems the Western powers have had, is that all along they thought they were a wealthy country because they were exploiting countries that were super dirt poor. Yeah. And so you'll get other countries that claim to be communist, like China, for example. Communism and democracy and fascism, the words don't mean the same things that they used to mean. They change with every new regime change. So when someone says, well, they're leftist center or they're right wing or whatever, it really doesn't apply. You can't reflect upon previous regimes, especially if they're from another country, and compare the two. That's like comparing apples and oranges. It just doesn't work. And China, for example, it claims to be communist, isn't really. I mean, everyone is equally worthless over there. But there are super rich, and they're part of the democracy in China. The super rich that are in China, they do get to make decisions on their own, and it is a group effort within the smaller group, talking about the larger group being the local populace. For local populace, it is authoritarianism because the financial elite in China are significantly less rich than other countries. They do have their advantages, like they're buying up a lot of gold, slave labor. You can't beat that. Slave labor is amazing for an economy. And we don't have those sort of things in Western countries. Well, I mean, we kind of do. There's, our slavery is a little bit better managed than the slavery in Asia, where, they have borax in their wonton noodle soups, and they live in literally tiny little cages, and, there are vermin running around everywhere, and they're poorly clothed, and they spend 13 hours a day working, and that's supposed to be good work ethic. That sounds like a slave. And you start comparing things over here in the Western world, and you go, our slavery is a little bit better in some regards, but, there's a lot of places where they want to make it worse for us. And the financial elite in this country might see financial advantage to invest their money elsewhere, making us poorer. I don't know if you noticed, but food prices are going to go up. The Democratic peoples did not vote to pay more for food within the country. I assure you that. Whether it be the jackass who owns a $3 million house or the peasant living in a rental apartment on the downtown east side, they didn't fucking vote to up the prices of food. So therefore, democracy is thrown right out the window. People don't understand what the fucking word means. And authoritarianism, it has its purpose. I'm not going to say I agree with most of the things that it's about, but there's a reason it's there. And democracy has its reason for having this image of it painted that isn't exactly accurate, and why it's needed to keep the lower classes in order. And it's a good way to distribute wealth for the financial elite in whatever direction they wanted to go in. And as I said, with China, they do have wealth. The rare earth minerals that they have. The United States has rare earth minerals too, but to refine them is a really, really bad for the environment kind of thing to do. And the American philosophy was, it's over there, it's their problem, we'll just ignore it. And that problem could come back to haunt us at some point. Some people would suggest that it should already. In fact, a lot of people within the country, so it's like a mental disorder. I mean, there were people who were actually happy that, I think it was Indonesia was sending their plastic that was made in Asia, brought to Canada, and then Canada brought it back to them. And they thought it was a good thing. And it's like, your country might be a trash heap, but it doesn't mean this one should be. Even if, that kind of means you don't get anything out of the deal, and the majority of your populace never gets to live here. And so your version of whatever the fuck they call their government system, because they have their own word for it. I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't care to know what it is. Really, when the English word for it would be authoritarianism. And yeah, they have to be a lot, stricter about their rules, and they have to be more desperate about imposing their law. So that's why they issue the death threat when you land there. So if you're so stupid to go over there, I don't want nothing to fucking do with you. You're free to live your life any way you want, but don't do it around me, or else I'll kindly show you the door. So, like, communism under Mao is obviously different than what it is today, and the wording and how the government is actually structured has changed as well. As some people may know, certain institutions within the government, whatever they do, us outsiders don't know these things, they do become obsolete over time, or they get replaced with something better, or a new idea, heaven forbid, a new fucking idea comes around, as a way of managing the local populace. That's what the government does. And it doesn't matter what words they use, it matters what they do. So you take a guy like Jagmeet Singh, for example, who was the NDP leader, and he promised all these nice things for Canadians. And you know why he did? Because he knew he wasn't going to win. He knew that an East Indian was never going to be elected prime minister, at least not for the long foreseeable future. And he tried to grapple onto the Liberals, Justin Trudeau, because he knew he wasn't going to win. And he made all these promises, and he made those promises because he knew he wouldn't have to keep them because he wasn't going to win. He looks like the good guy who fought the brave fight, as the NDP always like to look, and that was the most abysmal performance I'd ever seen in an election by a significant party. That was embarrassing. And it's like, you can use fancy words and you can say nice things, but if they don't equate to reality, then they don't count for anything. So saying we live in a democracy is only accurate as to the actual definition of what a democracy is. Your average everyday Joe had no chance of ever coming close to being a prime minister, regardless of who they were or are. Justin Trudeau had a shoe-in with his father, Pierre Trudeau. The roots were already there. Everyday average citizen never would have had a chance. Even people of significant wealth, I'm talking people who are worth $100 million plus, never would have a chance of being a prime minister. And suppose if they knew all the facts, as many facts as Justin Trudeau, suppose they had a better game plan as how to manage the country than he did. Never would happen. Never would happen. So this idea that people have that their tiny piddly little vote actually counts for something, what a joke. I don't have any problem with someone going, "Oh, you're a fascist because you collect militaria." No, you're an idiot because you actually believe democracy is a real thing. Yeah, I know that's not what people want to hear. They want to, where's your spirit, your Canadian spirit? Why aren't you happy for the chance to vote for your new overlord? How about because the overlord's a sack of shit and I don't actually like him, and if people knew who he was and what he does for real, they wouldn't like him either. But that would be bad PR, so he keeps his life like he's super busy, and he's giving us the gift of letting us know the most, mundane of information as it occurs on the news, and they tell us the stupid version of everything. And this is his gift for us. And it's like, I don't need to know what you fucking ate for breakfast. I don't care what fucking socks you're wearing. I care about how you flopped in fucking India. I care about what are you doing in Afghanistan with the poppy farming that you've been doing. And don't pretend that fucking a guy like Justin Trudeau has nothing to do with what the Americans do, because that's just bullshit. He would never admit it because he wants Canada to appear to be an independent country, and in a way it is, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have his filthy claws in another fucking country. Doesn't mean that at all. So, you know, you start crisscrossing between countries and where financial interests lay and what significant powers are interested in those, whether they be individuals or the majority of a country, and you go, how the fuck do these people maintain their sanity? How the fuck do they do it? I mean, like, with so many problems and so many variables and so many what ifs, and then of course there's the always chuntering away of threats, because there's always somebody who is jealous of people with power and money, and it's usually a rival country or extremist faction within a dirt poor country that has nothing, that broods this jealousy. And then people have to remember that these people are actually in charge of countries. So when you get people going, oh, but go to Puerto Vallarta, it's all inclusive. You mean you want me to go to a controlled setting, which is not really a vacation, not my definition of one anyway, that's controlled for the simple reason that that country wants to make money, and they know about all the bad things in their country, so that's why they introduce this policy of all-inclusiveness, so that you're marginally protected. If that country were to change its mind at any given time for any amount of important, significant reasons, you would be fucked. And people go, well, that doesn't happen very often. I don't see it on the internet that they control. Oh, no, you don't, because they don't post fucking stuff like that all the time when it happens. They'll pick one significant thing that happens, and then everyone will go, well, there was a shark attack on what's-his-face, and that's the one and only time it ever happened. And it's like, no. It happens a lot more often than that. They downplay the numbers. And I mean, if you're going to encroach in other people's habitats or other animals' habitats, I'm still talking about people here, you can expect them to be hostile. And if they're only not hostile because they're taking your money, but they still, because this is their governments we're talking about, still have a malicious mentality, whether they show it or not is not really relevant, because if they show it, then you're really fucked. I mean, you take a country like Sri Lanka, for example. There was a time, and it might still be in a thing right now, I don't know. But I know there was a time where there was a man from Sri Lanka. I never even bothered to look it up. It's a nosebleed of a country. I don't give a shit about it. Anyway, there was a man from Sri Lanka, and he went back to his home country, and, he was a bit of a poof, but he didn't actually do anything wrong. And they wouldn't let him leave. He simply was not allowed to leave the country. And, I'm going to, when I think of a vacation, I think of either going on the road or going to a cafe in France, eating Dover sole in Italy, probably having a burger and a beer in Germany, go to Austria for some refined, basically German food, but more refined. That's my idea of a vacation. And this traveling to places where the populace doesn't actually like you but needs your money mentality because you want to feel like Mr. Big, to me, that sounds moronic. I mean, I'm not going to say that bad things don't happen in European countries or bad things don't happen in the States, but you're more free over there to go, actually vacationing rather than being on a set tour of what you're supposed to be doing. And this is important to my original topic of the video, which was democracies, the definition of communism, authoritarianism, fascism, and all that sort of stuff, is that if a country is poor, has more authoritarian measures in place because they're poorer, they're more desperate, rest assured the people in power are even crazier. All the bad things that accompany poverty, destitute, and desolation escalate when the country is actually really poor. This is actually a surprise to some people because they go, oh, look how wonderful the beach is. Oh, everything seems to be like it's free, even though I paid for an all-inclusive vacation. And it's like, no, it isn't like that at all. And knowing that there are people out there who think, malicious thoughts about people, and most of the time for no reason, because once they're up the certain level of authority, people become statistics to them, and you become a nobody to them, and they are in positions of power, and you want to go over there. You're a fucking moron is what you are. But all my friends went there and had a good time. Well, you and your friends are retards, that's why. But, as I said, you want to do that? That's your bag. Do it on your own and never bother me again. It's part of my nature not to trust people. I mean, I don't even trust people or bureaucrats in this own country. Why the fuck would I go someplace where I don't trust them either, even more so, and they have more of an axe to grind over there? I mean, they're bad enough over here. Why would I want to go over there? And I, had to include this into the conversation because it is an important subtopic to the main discussion piece. So, I understand the wonder and the fascination of something different. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. And, it's not my cup of tea. And if it is somebody else's, then that's their business. But it's not my business. And, I'm interested in, climbing up the walls, climbing the chain here, bettering my situation in, what is supposed to be a somewhat decent country. It isn't really. Canada is not really that great a country, but, it's a little more decent than some of the rat's nests in other places of the world. Actually, coincidentally, my youngest brother wants me to go to New York with him next year. I'll have the money to do that, but New York literally has 1 billion fucking rats because of the sewer system that's there. It's not like how it used to be. It's like super expensive for what it is, and I don't like New York. I've hated them since 1994. So, New York's not on my top list. I would rather go to, I don't know, maybe Boston or, I guess Chicago, although some parts of Chicago are pretty shitty, but some of them are okay, I suppose. There are other places, and, even like Vegas, could be all right. I wouldn't go there for gambling. I would go there for, basically boozing and, watching the lights and all that sort of stuff. Gambling, I don't understand the point in gambling. Like, gambling, no matter how good you are, you will inevitably lose, and you're more than probably going to lose most of the time. So gambling, doesn't really appeal to me. Not in the sense of handing hard currency over, them spinning a wheel and go, oh, sorry, your numbers didn't come up, and they take your money away. That's sounds like a moron's game to me. I mean, sure, there are a few people who lucked out on it, but most people don't. And it's pure by chance. Even poker. Like, people go, oh, poker's all about skill. Well, there's a little bit of skill involved, but there isn't actually that much. It's called, are you dealt a shitty hand or not? Like, people actually, there are other places you go gambling too, and if you win, you're in deep shit. It's like you almost want to lose because you're in a very bad situation if you win. I'm certainly not going to play Russian roulette with some Vietnamese guy, but I am going to suggest that you don't go to places like that. And it doesn't matter how good something was for somebody else. Maybe they lucked out, but you will never have the same experience as they had. And this all ties in to what a government structure is and the main facets of how they bring in their financial revenue. The Western powers, yes, the tourism industry is a prominent force of financial gain within the West, but it's not the dominant one. It isn't. It's the exploitation of the third world and stealing resources and slave labor from other countries, and just a whole bunch of combinations of things. It's not one simple answer. So anyway, I figure I'm going to end this little topic here because I don't know, it's one of those things that had to be talked about, but it's not one of the things that I actually respect or have any high interest in. So anyway, hope you found this video insightful, and I will talk to you dumbasses later.